Hey there, people of the grid. It's me, Miker. I've been buying these Christmas chocolates. One sec. They are so good. They are so good. Somebody's already picked up their Christmas tree. I thought I would do a 6.5 year, give or take a few months, it's actually more, 6.5 year review of the Tesla Model S. Yeah, 6.5 years we've had this bad boy, the Light Runner. I'm going on an errand. I got to pick up some stuff for a meeting on Wednesday night, and I thought I would give you guys my thoughts and experiences in owning a Tesla for 6.5 years and tell you what we think of the car now and how it's doing so far. And then I'll also cover exactly how much we've spent on this car in maintenance and exactly how much we've spent on this car to propel it, to drive it as far as we have. In this car, we have driven further than any car I have ever owned. Right now, we're sitting at 272,785 kilometers. I've never driven, it's almost 100,000 kilometers more than I've ever driven any other vehicle that I've owned. And same goes for Tammy. So this car is kind of special for us. We have never driven a car this far. I've never been so excited about a car 6.5 years after owning it. And we're keeping this girl. She ain't going anywhere. So where should we start? We're going to start with another chocolate. And then we'll get into autopilot. Wow. Okay, I think I got enough chocolate in my system. We're going to start with autopilot. Like I said, autopilot is something that we were super excited about. It's not what sold us on the car by any means. What sold us on this car from the beginning, from the get-go, from even before I believed I would ever have a Tesla, was this was the electric car that had range. That's what sold me on it. To have an electric car that I could use pretty much like a normal car and that could replace a normal car, gas car in our lives, that's what sold me on it. The autopilot thing, that was kind of a icing on the cake. It was exciting. In fact, when we bought the car, it didn't have autopilot. The hardware was built in. It was able to do it. It just wasn't turned on yet because Tesla didn't feel their software was ready. So they were still developing the software while we drove it around for about 6 months. That first 6 months, that was March. Yeah, it came in September. So almost 6 months, we drove the car with no autopilot. And then one magical day, we got an over-the-air update, just like you do for your iPhone or your Android device, just over-the-air update, new software. And we wake up and the car says, oh yeah, that autopilot thing, I can do that now. And wow, what a game changer. Like that was a moment where I'm like, this is the next level of technology. We have just as a species leveled up. And it wasn't anywhere near perfect. It still isn't anywhere near perfect. But it is so good that other vehicle manufacturers are now saying, oh, we have autopilot. Like 6 years later, 5 years later, other vehicle makers are saying, oh, we got it too. No, this autopilot is actually quite amazing. I have used it. Well, I use it all the time. Whenever I go on a road trip, whenever I'm driving somewhere, autopilot is getting me there safely. So I got a hand on the wheel, most of the time, as you should. I'm watching where I'm going, but then I've got the computer, I've got the car also watching what's going on around me. So if it starts to hit the brakes or, it picks something going on, it's helping me out. So I love that feature. And really, the big thing for us in getting this car, it was a bit of a leap of faith because we were getting rid of our family vehicle, our main commuter vehicle. I used it for work when Tammy wasn't using it. It was the the vehicle that took all of the kilometers, like all of the mileage that we drove went on that vehicle. We sold it. It was used. We had it for 7 years. It was a Dodge Grand Caravan. We decided, no, this thing's going to work. This thing seats 7, 2 in the front, 3 in the back, and then 2 more in the very rear. And our kids were small enough that we could actually put 2 in the very rear. Now, they're all too big. They're too tall to sit in the back. Although every once in a while, they still hop in there, but they're too tall. So now it's really a 5-seater car, which is still really good for us because Ethan's driving and doing his own thing. Amelia's driving and almost doing her own thing. So most of the time, there's barely 5 of us in a car if we're lucky. So it works out really well. The fact that it's actually risen up to the challenge of being a family vehicle and getting us to work and to school and to all of our activities and all of our events, it's been wonderful. I was worried that it might not be able to do that, but we've been able to do some pretty tight schedule stuff that involved major long driving in the winters, and we've done it. And this car's come through like a champ, and that's why we're so happy with it, because not only does it meet what we needed to do, but it's gone beyond. For work, I take it on road trips. For family trips, we've driven it to Disneyland. We've gone down from Calgary to Anaheim, which is a very long drive, and it just does it. It navigates its way there. It takes you to the supercharger, and no big deal. So everything about this car is upside. And a lot of people who don't have an electric car are like, yeah, but there's the charging thing. You got to wait to charge. Yes, you do. You do have to wait to charge. But you know what I've found? And maybe it's just the type of work that I do. I work on a computer. Actually, I work primarily on my iPad now, but I work on a computer, and I can do my work anywhere. I can do it on the deck up at the house. I can do it in my office in the house. I can do it in my office downtown. I can do it in another city, in an airport, wherever I'm at. As long as I have internet connectivity, I can do it at the campground. I can do my work. And I can also do it while I'm traveling. So I can do it while I'm in the car. Just making sure I don't miss my turn. I can do it while I'm in the car charging or stopped. In the car, when I'm supercharging, it's easy. I get the emails done, I get caught up on some work, it's a nice break in the day, I get to eat, go to the washroom, stock up on a coffee or whatever, and go. And so when I get to my destination, there's no problem as far as, I gotta work tonight. I get a lot more done that way. So for me, perfect fit. I don't even notice the waiting for a charge thing. Sometimes I even have a little nap while I'm charging, if I need a longer one. Wow, it is so nice outside. There's no snow on the ground in the city. The snow is in the mountains where it belongs. So this is kind of a nice start to the winter. Like I was saying, the car does everything we need it to. It's got a lot of wonderful features. I've covered those in other videos in more in depth. Let me know if you want to know more about it, but we use all of them. We've got the sunroof. We've got the heated steering wheel in the winter package that heats the front. We've got the rear seating that actually seats the passenger 6 and passenger 7. We've got the leather, fake leather, whatever trim, Alcantara stuff on top. Just nice creature comforts. We've got space in the front to store stuff. We got roof racks with a toolie box so we can store suitcases or snowboards or anything we need. So the car, as far as doing what we need a vehicle to do for us, it checks off every box. And then it goes beyond because it's very cheap to drive. And by cheap to drive, I don't mean that Teslas are cheap, because they're not. They're super expensive. It's in the supercar category. They're not cheap, but it does make sense to own one because to propel it costs next to nothing. Like, it is literally just under or just over. It's about a penny a kilometer for us here in Canada. A penny a kilometer, and that's a mix of charging at home and mixing. Sorry about that bright light. And mixing charging at a Tesla supercharger and then public chargers as well. One of the cool things for us with this car, because we got it in 2015, we have lifetime free supercharging. And when I saw that, I thought, that could really work well for us, because we're going to do a lot of driving, and free is like my favorite 4-letter word. So to be able to charge up for free and go anywhere that we want, that's a nice feature. So, and And that actually works really well, because even if we were to buy a new Tesla today and we would have to pay for supercharging, the only times that we really use supercharging is when we go on longer road trips or to go snowboarding. So, you know, at that point, it's still cheaper than buying gas, and you're only doing that once a week at most. So it would still be a lot more cost effective for us to drive this car than any other gas vehicle that we would have owned. And I just love it. I love all of the technology in it. I love the big screen that I've got here in the middle. I love the ability to do what it does. The navigation that it does is amazing. It puts all other little Navi screens in other cars to shame, because they're so tiny. They're like barely the size of your iPhone screen, and I've got a 17-inch monitor in my vehicle that I use to navigate and to interact with the car. So it's been just like an incredible experience. Now, maintenance-wise, it's been great. It's been cost-effective, not that expensive. We did have a really big hit at the end of, I think it was the end of 2019, just as we slid into the zombie apocalypse. We had to replace the front A-arms, and we did some brake work. I mean, it was a big hit all at once. Normally, in any given year, we've spent less than $600 per year for maintenance, even less than that. And then that one year it was up around, I don't know, 9,000-10,000. It was a big hit all at once, but it's worth it. I mean, for what we get out of the car, and I'll show you the spreadsheet a little bit later, exactly what we've spent on the car and where. I mean, we spend the usual. We've replaced the windshield, we've replaced tires, and we've done little odds and ends that have not been that expensive. Now, one of you mentioned you heard something in the car. You can probably hear it now if you listen closely. It's kind of like that little, what I think it is, I think it's my front motor, and there's something that's around the shroud or near where the axle is spinning that's touching. I think it's rubber touching the axle, and so I'm going to take it in to get that looked at. But yeah, it's just been an awesome car. An awesome car. Would I recommend you buy one? Oh yeah. Would I recommend that I buy another one? Oh yeah. In fact, if I was to buy another one, for me, I like the Model 3s. I like the way they look. I like the way they feel. They're kind of lower like this one, a bit sportier. I like that. I love the kind of infinity dash that they have. And even mine is really clean. The setup is really minimal in here. There's no massive buttons. It's just well done. You know, I don't have drink holders in the back. I only have 2 drink holders in the front. I don't have door pockets where I can store all my crap. It's all good. I mean, as far as what I needed to do, I'm so happy with this car. I don't want to let it go. And I think we're going to drive it for a lot longer. Want to cross the 500,000 kilometer mark and beyond. Kind of like to infinity and beyond. I think that's where I'm going to take this car. Take a look over here. This is the lake where we first splashed our boat when we bought it. This was the test run lake. Amelia fell in. Wow, the lake houses have gotten a lot bigger. Look at my buddy here. He's got like a 10-car driveway and a 3-car garage. Wow. Lake's over there, house right here. Well, that wasn't the quickest pit stop, but it was a very nice time. I had cappuccino, no, I had espresso, about 3 or 4 of them, so I'm going to be up for the next 3 days. Had some nice Italian snacks. That was a nice visit. And I got the stuff I need for my meeting on Wednesday, so all is set. I'm going to take this Tesla home. Got about a half-hour-ish trip. Going to plug it in, and that's it. Hey there, people of the grid. We're home now. Now we're going to dive into the numbers, but before we do, I realized I forgot to tell you about one of the most important things about the electric car, which is the electric battery. The battery in our car, in the Tesla Model S, which is now over 6.5 years old, has been doing really well. When I do the numbers, when I do the math, I think we're coming in at around 9% degradation, between 9 and 10%. See, when it was brand new, if I charge it to 100% at a supercharger and let it balance out, I would end up with just shy of 430 kilometers, 428, 429. I think once I hit 430. So that was the peak, the max. Now, when I supercharge and I let it balance out, I believe the most I've seen is about 398 kilometers. So that's 32 kilometers less. That puts us smack dab in the middle of about 9.5% degradation on the battery inside of 6.5 years. That's not bad when you consider that the number of Tesla superchargers has grown by like over 1,000%. The number of public chargers has grown over 1,000%. And of course, we still have the option of charging at home, which we do all the time. So that impact, that slight battery loss, hasn't even affected us at all. We can still drive to Disneyland if we want. It's really not an issue. So when I look at battery degradation and people say, how long can you drive? I really don't worry about it. I used to, because everybody talked about it in the beginning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how long is it going to last? I think now it'll last longer than I want to keep the car. We're at 6.5 years in. I want to take it to over 10 years, maybe longer of us owning the car. We'll be able to get there, no worries. And it'll still be a huge value for the next person that buys it, or if we decide to keep it beyond that. So feeling pretty good about the battery. Let's dive into the numbers here and I'll give you a lot more details and I'll even show you what I track. And then if you have any questions, you know, the story, drop them in the comments below, like, share, all of that good stuff. Okay, here we go. All right, let's dive into some spreadsheety goodness. This spreadsheet that you're looking at right now, this is the one that I use to track every time we charge in the car. It dates back to the very beginning when we first got the car. And here's what I did. I wanted to break it down, break the charge down into the 3 places that I might charge, because I wanted to make sure that I'm getting my return on the supercharger network, because there was a charge in the early days. Now it's just part of the car. And I want to get a feel for how much I'm getting from public chargers, which here, most of them, all the ones that I use are free. And then I want to get a feel for how much we use of our own charging electricity at home. So from April 2015, we got the car March 31st of 2015. And this is, you know, the history going back to April. So all I do is I track how much kilometers. I'll go back to current date and time here. Where are we? November 2021. So when I plug in, I track where I plug in. Is it local? HWPC, charger. HWPC means I'm charging at my high performance wall charger at home. SC is any service charger from Tesla. And then public is any public charger. If I charge at a friend's house, if I charge at any of the public facilities, those are the ones that I don't have to pay for. So there's 2 out of those 3 I don't pay. That's SC, because we get free supercharging, and public. And then I just break it down, I add it all up, and I can get, at a glance, for the month of November, you can see that I charged 71% at home, 27% of the charges were from a Tesla supercharger, and 2% of the charges were from public. And if we go back to the summer, it's a lot different, because we were charging 62% off of public charging, which was free, and 26% at home, etc. So I track all of that, and I add it all up. And then I put that into a separate spreadsheet. So let's jump to my over time tracking spreadsheets called EV Stats. So inside of EV Stats, here's the Light Runner stats. This is where I can actually amalgamate all of those years. So I go down from the beginning. I basically summarize a year at a glance. You know, what was the charging for 2015? What did it come to for 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020? And current year 2021, and then I just total it at the top of that spreadsheet, and I also total in a breakdown here what the charging profile looks like. So look at that, 39% of all of the electricity that went into the car came from Tesla superchargers, 32% came from public chargers, and 29% came from our outlet at home charging. So that's a pretty good breakdown. That's because I use the car for work, so a lot of the charging I do is away from home, but that's how it breaks down. Here's where it gets interesting when you look into the numbers. So full disclosure, when we bought the car, there it is, Tesla S, those are Canadian dollars. That includes a full winter set of tires and rims. It includes the roof rack, and it includes, we bought an extra 2 years of service because I wasn't sure. So it included, I think that was about $2,000 on top of the purchase price. So without the tires, without the roof rack, without that extra service, I think the car would have clocked in at around 124,000-ish, 125, something like that. So anyways, that's the cost of the car. If you think about it, that's the cost of 2 cars. So I need this car to last as long as 2 cars would last me, and it's definitely looking that way. When I add up the numbers for a given year, I'll track how much we drove in that year. So that helps me know, it helps me apply the costing to it. I also track how many kilowatt hours went into driving that far. That's just the total HWPC. That's, kilowatts that were taken from home charging, Tesla kilowatts that were taken from Tesla superchargers, and then I've got public chargers that were taken from public chargers. This count is 76 and 20 so far this year. That's how many times I've used Tesla's superchargers. So in total, I've charged at Tesla superchargers 612 times over the 6.5-year period. It's not bad. But here's the magical number right here. So it doesn't have all the November data. That gets summed up when I enter it here at the end of the month, but it's good enough for this purpose. Our total driven is 271,000 as of this spreadsheet when I recorded the numbers end of October. And to drive that far, this is the other nice number, the electricity cost. So that's the only electricity I pay for is here at the house. I have spent $1,461 to drive 271,000 kilometers. That's pretty amazing. I mean, that's the EV story that I wanted to see. I wanted a car that's cheap to drive. Granted, it cost a lot to buy. I had to sell a kidney to do that, but that's a different video. It's under $1,500 to drive that far. I used to spend that in, a couple of months of driving a gas vehicle. So to drive 6.5 years and to get that distance out of that little money is phenomenal. That's where I'm driving most of my cost savings. And then I take that math and I add up the electricity cost, and I also add in and factor in the maintenance cost. So over the 6.5 years, we have spent a total of, looks like just under $17,000. So 6.5 years, $17,000. It's less than $3,000 a year. So some years it was, in the beginning here, it was zero. And then other years, in the second year, 1,600, then 627, 2,200, 2,600, 8,800. That was the big year where we had the arms, the rocker arms in the front and the brakes. And then we did some more here. So let's look at that, because some of those costs are just general, you own a car and you got to repair it costs. Let's look at the first year here. If I look at the comments there, we've got new windshield. So, that's nothing particular to the EV. We would have to do that in any car. Now, that's an expensive windshield, so that is a bit of a Tesla premium. $1,300 installed for a windshield is a lot. Most vehicles, hopefully you're around $400 or less. Your Beamers, your Audis, you're probably around $800-900. But that's a lot. And then, it was actually $1,300 for the windshield and $288 for the install at Speedy. So it was over $1,500. We're on that second windshield. That's the one that's in the car and you see cracks on it. That's the only one we've gotten. I'm due for another one now. So I'm just waiting a little bit longer and a little bit longer before I spend that money again. In 2017, what did we spend there? Windshield repair. So that's when I got the idea that if I do get a rock chip, I'm going to get it filled. And that's been working really well. We did a quality of life upgrade where we upgraded 3G to LTE just to make my TCU run faster. And I'm glad we did it. Didn't have to do it because 3G is still supported and it would have ran fine. It just makes that computer a bit slower. And then we spent 42 bucks to swap from winter to summer tires, which again, that's going to come with any car. And then in 2018, we spent $2,200. $880 was for a rear trim repair. There's a little bit of plastic molding that goes on the back of the car underneath. It's silver, and you can see it when you look at the back of the car. I had backed up onto one of those cement blocks. I just backed up a little too far, and I heard it, and I stopped, and the going forward part just kind of twisted that plastic molding and wrecked it, and it was bothering me. So I wanted to get that fixed. That was a cosmetic thing. It wasn't anything that, Tesla failed at. It was me, and I wanted the car to look decent, so spent the money. And then I had to get a new set of winter tires, which you got to do. You got to get new tires. So the costs in 2018, other than the 880 bucks, were expected of any car. In 2019, what did we do there with 2600? We had our fifth service where we got a new 12-volt battery. One of my door handles was not presenting, so they fixed that. A new headlight bulb, $301. My car has the old style headlights, which are bulbs, so they're actually pretty cheap to replace. New Teslas that are LED, it's more like 750 bucks because they do the whole unit, so I got away cheap. Had another passenger door wiring fix, $1,205, got a new set of summer tires. Then we did some passenger door wiring because something was acting weird as far as, I think, the window not coming down properly or going up all the way, which is still a bit of an issue. That's the only issue I still have in the car is my passenger window. If the door's open, passenger window goes all the way up, no problem. If the door's closed and you open the window and you roll it up, it goes up part of the way and then stops and goes back down. So you got to do it like 3-4 times and it'll close, or you open the door and it closes. So I still got to get that fixed. Passenger door handle fix, and then a winter tire swap. So that was 2019. 2020, that year hurt. That left a big mark. So if we look at that one, $146 for a 12-volt battery reset and rear passenger door handle replace. It was a little gear. So those presenting door handles in the Teslas, the older ones anyways, I like what the Model 3 does and what the Model Y does, and even Tammy's Model X, where there's really no moving parts. It's just a door handle you press against and then it goes click, click. There's a micro switch that activates open door or closed door. With mine, you touch the handle and it actually presents out. So there's some gears in there. Thankfully, they don't always have to replace the whole handle for $700 odd. Sometimes it's just a $40 part, and that's what happened here. And then we did a tire swap again for summer to winter. You'll notice that if you take your Tesla to change the tires, it's 90 bucks. If you go to like a tire shop, it's about $40 for us. And then $8,106, that was for service and repairs to the control arms and the brakes. That was a big bill. That one ruined Christmas because that was at the end of the year. So yeah, that hurt. It hurt the credit card. It still hurts even thinking about it. So we'll just put that behind us. And then we got into this year so far where the repairs on the car were $921. $353, again, trying to get that window thing, the wiring harness. They actually replaced the whole harness and it still didn't fix the problem. So got to go back for that. $91 to swap tires and $421 for the tire alignment. And I think one or two of my winter tires had the TPMS sensor died. And unfortunately, the sensors that Tesla uses, they're kind of a sealed unit. So it's not like you can take the tire off, take the TPMS out and swap the battery in it, put it back in. You need to swap the whole unit, which is really lame, but that's the part they use. So that one cost a bit. At least I didn't have to do all the tires. And then a tire swap again. That one I did. Oh yeah, the $91 I did at Tesla. And then I went back to the tire store. It's called Cal Tire here. And it was $55. And now that I have AMA, because the kids are driving gas cars, I got AMA cards, it's even cheaper. It's around 40 and change if you use Cal Tire with an AMA card. So total over 6.5 years, $16,800. Not bad. When I look at, let's switch over to my van here. which we got in 2008. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we spent $19,500. That was a Dodge Grand Caravan. That's your like soccer mom car, family car, you know, that served us really well, but we spent a lot more in that. Extra 2 years, granted, but still, the Tesla is on par with a regular vehicle. If we compare it to our truck, which we've had a lot longer, since 2007, we've already spent $30,000 maintaining the truck. So big advantage, I think, for the Tesla. When I factor in the costs, when I figure out the costs here, it's looking like, and the reason these are zeros is because they dipped under a cent, so it's not rounding up. Here we are at 1 cent. So it costs 1 cent per kilometer in electricity. And that's probably the best way, if you're going to compare vehicles, figure out how much it costs to propel the vehicle you're going to drive. The initial cost of the vehicle is one thing. Some people lease, some people buy outright, some people get a loan. So there's going to be costs there. But figure out the cost to propel, because that is a huge factor. And if you're going to drive a lot over the time you own the vehicle, that's where you're going to drive your cost savings out of. And so obviously it's worked well for us because we're driving for 1 cent. Just to give you an idea, and I don't have it on here, but I had a motorbike, a Yamaha 175. It was a street bike. That was 5 cents a kilometer to drive. So a street bike cost more than a Tesla to drive the same distance. And the Tesla, I can take 7 people in or 5 adults comfortably with luggage. I could be comfortable. Yeah, I mean, it's a hands down winner. So that's it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Like I said, if there's lots of questions in a certain area or I didn't cover something quite well enough, I'll do that in a subsequent video. The car's held up extremely well. There's no rust going on, you know, minimal exposure to rust. I think there might be a couple of tiny spots. The paint job has suffered because we didn't apply any treatment. Thinking back now, I wish I would have. But we had spent so much money on the car. I mean, we were tapped out. So I said, we'll take care of it as best we can. So the paint job has suffered. It still looks great. It's only when you come up really close and look at the front hood, especially, there's a bunch of little rock marks and chips in the paint. And then on the sides of the car where it flares out for the rear tire well, because those are kind of facing any incoming sand from the front tires off the road, they've taken a bit of I call it a sandblasting. But again, it's cosmetic. It doesn't look that bad. You know, maybe one day if we have it long enough, we'll repaint and then we'll put a coating on it. I'd like to do some kind of a wrap, but you know, that's for another day. So that is the summary of our 6.5 year journey with the Tesla Model S. Original battery, no battery swap. Original motor, no motor swap. The car's running like a tank. The end. Miker out.